Back in the United States, my family and I just took a trip to the Dominican Republic the last week, and Izzy filled in, and so grateful to have a team to support me all of the time. So I just want to say thank you for watching last week. Thank you to Izzy. And the good thing is, well, I don't know if it's a good thing or not. Well, for me, it's kind of a vacation built in. There was no city council meeting last week. There's no city council meeting this week because it's the 5th Tuesday of the month. So if any 5th Tuesday, city council does not meet. And then they've canceled the August 5th work session meeting as well. So the next city council meeting will be the 12th of August, which means I will report back on that the following week. Gives me a few hours each week of vacation, so to speak, because that is some of the most important information that I believe is to be had in Fort Collins, is watching what city council is doing, the city council work sessions. But that doesn't mean that there's not great information to be given. And I'm excited also to talk about what I missed last week, which I'm really sad about. There was the PBR event at Canvas Stadium, and then we had John Party. And unfortunately, Tim McGraw had a back surgery is what I believe happened, and so had to pull out of the event. But that would have been a double banger. We had Canadian Ragweed. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but we had Canadian Ragweed perform at Canvas Stadium. It was the first major event at Canvas Stadium other than a football game because the moratorium was up. There was a 5-year moratorium where Canvas Stadium could not hold any other events besides besides the football games. And now we can have 3 each year. So I'm excited. I kind of dove into a little bit of the history of what has been held in Fort Collins, who's come through. There were some names that I was actually shocked to see, and the future possibilities in Fort Collins. But let's jump into this weekly live. Now, we come to you live every Monday at noon. I also send out a weekly newsletter every Tuesday. Didn't send one out last Tuesday. I was on vacation, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to just enjoy vacation. And but we send it out every Tuesday morning at 7:30 in the morning. That gives you guys some kind of breakdown of what we talk about here live. Also, things to do, links to those things to do, podcast episodes, blog posts, real estate review, and then kind of a note for myself each week as well. Kind of just personal reflections, things that I'm thinking about, working on, all that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in that, definitely feel free to reach out. Comment also live, and I'll respond to you going on. But this week, so the city of Fort Collins voted in, and I believe this is the first year, or maybe I think maybe it's the second year actually, of our citywide trash hauler program. So the city of Fort Collins voted, or excuse me, I believe it was actually our council members voted in a single hauler in Fort Collins trash hauler, which ended up being Republic, which was originally Gallegos, which was a Fort Collins local family, did very well, built this trash hauler, sold it a couple of times is my understanding, but the most recent one to Republic, and they are our single hauler trash hauler in Fort Collins. Now, that doesn't apply to multifamily or commercial developments, but it does apply to all single family detached homes in Fort Collins. If you're in an HOA, you could have opted out like our HOA did. We stuck with RAM Waste. And I believe I'm pretty sure I do. I'll have to look into that. I have to pay an opt-out fee, and I have. I'm just thinking about that. I have paid an opt-out fee for Republic Waste, which is $11.10 per month, billed quarterly. So about $33.30 billed quarterly. And, it's kind of annoying. I do remember last year, and I asked my assistant, I said, what's this $600, bill on my credit card? And she goes, that's the opt-out fee for our properties that aren't using Republic for their trash hauling. And I said, holy shit. I mean, that's quite a bit. And I got calls from neighbors up in Red Feather who have property down here in Fort Collins and were asking me about it, like what's happening? Do we have to pay it? Well, yes, it is a citywide contract that if you aren't a part of it, the agreement with Republic was they could charge an administrative fee for those not taking part of it. Now, let's see here. It looks like about 70% of households, or excuse me, what are the numbers here? I had them right here. 1,000 homes have not paid the fee and are delinquent. And as of August 4th, they can start sending those delinquent payers to collections. I mean, the City of Fort Collins residents who aren't paying this and are using their own trash hauler, for whatever reason, they're not paying it and I'm not excited about it, believe it's unconstitutional, whatever you want to say. But they're going to get sent to collections, and it's Republic Waste is the one that's going to be doing it. And you have to be 90 days delinquent. So, I mean, I can imagine some of the articles and posts that you might see on Reddit threads about being pissed off about this. But regardless, the intention is that that City of Fort Collins can negotiate lower rates for those people who do use Republic Waste as their hauler. Additionally, to cut down on how many trash haulers are throughout the city. And I think we're still really very much in the first inning because there's people who are arguing that, hey, there's still Ram Waste and Western Waste and a few other trash haulers that are on the road. So have we really cut down on road traffic? I'm sure there will be significant studies that follow. But for now, that is what's happening. And let's see here. 8% of eligible households in Fort Collins have opted out of the city trash hauling program. And there was, I think, 20,000. About 37,000 of the 40,000 residents are a part of the program. And that covers 20% of the total collection in the city, which is wild. I would have thought it was a much bigger percentage, but obviously a big percentage are multifamily and commercial that contributes to the total waste collection, construction, demolition, all that kind of stuff. So if you haven't paid, it's good information to know whether you agree with it or not, because after 51 days in collections, it does start to impact your credit score. And that is no fun, no matter if I think credit's ridiculous. It's just such a joke. On vacation, I think I had my credit score went down 26 points for high credit card usage. And I'm like, I barely use my credit card, but I went from like minimal, which is 0 to 12% credit card usage, to like 12 to 25% credit card usage. And that dropped me 25 points. So I hate credit, but it is what it is. It's a necessary evil in the world that we live in. And so if you are one of those 1,000 residents that haven't paid your opt-out fee and are about to go to collections, it seems like you've got 51 days plus to August 4th. So probably 58 to 60 days or so to get that thing caught up. I thought it was interesting to see Colorado's average hourly pay and how it ranks. We actually rank 5th in the country for our average, which is $39.19 per hour. Number 1 was Washington, D.C., 2, Washington, Massachusetts, California, Colorado, Minnesota, New York, round out the top, 5 or 6 or 7. But the bottom, if you're in Mississippi, New Mexico, Louisiana, Arkansas, or West Virginia, those are the lowest average dollar per hour. Now, these are private sector jobs, which I'm actually going to do a video here shortly. The Biz West came out with their lists, top 500 growing private, public, small, basically small cap, medium cap, and large cap companies in Fort Collins. So if you are in the Fort Collins, Northern Colorado area, these are important companies to watch because, no matter what the economy is doing, number one and most important thing is employment, making sure that people are staying employed and highly employed. Mosquito spraying. There is definitely a increase of infection rates. We have 11 times our historical average. And so they've already done this spraying. They did it twice on July 24th and July 27th, essentially covering from Overland, which is our furthest west road, to I-25, which is essentially our eastern border, from Drake to from Mulberry to Drake. So what they recommended during that time was to stay indoors. Obviously, that's past, but mosquitoes definitely are a scary deal, especially for young ones. I had a personal story where a family member of mine was bit while she was very young and was impacted for the rest of her life. So I take it pretty seriously, and also have a very close friend who got West Nile and wrecked his nervous system. Really. So just make sure you're being careful. There are a larger amount of infections this year than years past. So just make sure to be aware. Let's see here. Landline is increasing some of its services. They're adding 6 new daily round trips for a total of 17 from 2:20 a.m. to 11:40 p.m. Our au pair has used our landline. Family has used Green Ride, Green Shuttle, or Green Ride, I think it is. And we definitely use those shuttles to and from DIA all the time. It's super nice. It's convenient. The Harmony Transit Station is easy to access in and out. So glad to see that. And yeah, we took off to Dominican Republic. Our flight left at 6, so we left our house at 1:45 or something like that to give us enough time. International flight, kids, all the above. So it's nice to see that they have options for 2:20 a.m., which might have been a little bit close for us, but probably would have been okay if we got dropped off at the front door, so to speak. While there was a lot of, national cuts, federal cuts for Department of Agriculture, Fort Collins is actually going to become one of the hubs. So, which is great for local employment. But there's 5 hubs: Raleigh, North Carolina, Kansas City, Indianapolis, Fort Collins, and Salt Lake City. They're going to redistribute about, I think it's relocating 2,600 employees from Washington, D.C. to one of these hubs. So if you're watching this in Washington, D.C. and moving to Fort Collins, be happy to be a resource for you if you have any questions or anything along those lines moving to the area. But regardless, it's just important for Fort Collins to maintain employment. Talking with close friends and very much people in the know of what's happening in our city. The big forces, UC Health, Woodward Governor, Otterbox, CSU, City of Fort Collins, all of those individuals are kind of getting a collective mind together and just making sure that our local economy is staying strong and sharing data and information and trying to get through, and make sure that Fort Collins stays strong. This was a good one. I saw this, and I've got a friend who's in the business, and so I kind of said to him in jest, but there was City of Fort Collins has a billboard and sign ordinance, essentially outlawing all signs and billboards in Fort Collins. Now there are some billboards that are grandfathered in, over kind of at the Exchange. You see that big billboard on top of their building. Off of Riverside, there's a billboard, but there's not many. And I think I might do a standalone video of, what makes City of Fort Collins so visually appealing. Well, one of those is we've undergrounded our utilities and have a sign ordinance. So you don't see a lot of billboards or signs in Fort Collins, and you also don't see utility lines spread out throughout the area. And Kelly Olson, Councilmember Kelly Olson, kind of nailed it. He's like, a lot of people don't understand. Like, they just can't put the finger on why is it so beautiful here. And that's 2 big reasons why. Well, and I like this. I kind of can appreciate this. Now, obviously, CSU is a massive employer in Fort Collins. I think it's like nearly 9,000 jobs, like 8,000 to 9,000 jobs that it provides to the city of Fort Collins, as well as 35,000 students who are coming here, working themselves, getting involved with the community, the job market, having mom and dad coming and visit them, giving dollars to them to pay and spend in our economy. So CSU is CSU is the most important economic impact in Fort Collins, and they need to stay healthy. But CSU is Colorado State University. It's a state organization, and they run by their own rules. In fact, it was we've talked about this a lot lately. Actually, Izzy talked about it a little bit last week, was the Hughes Stadium. When Hughes Stadium basically got relocated to Canvas Stadium, and then that 164 acres at Hughes came up for the state of Colorado State University to redevelop, the citizens of Fort Collins were like, no, we do not want this to become a big metropolitan of apartment complexes and mass density over here. We want to keep it open space. So we voted it in, I think in 2020 or 2021, that must remain open space. And CSU kind of looked at us and said, that's cute, but we own the land and we're going to do with it what we want and what we believe is best for the health of our university, because affordable housing is such an important issue for those that are, cooks, janitors, whoever, that might not necessarily be making high incomes, but working for CSU, need housing and close to the campus. So we're going to build affordable housing. And we're basically going to do it regardless of what you guys think, because they don't have to play by the rules of the city of Fort Collins, essentially. Now, a lot of times they do. Kelly Olson in the article suggested that, hey, we have a great relationship with CSU, and I think CSU is an extremely important part of Fort Collins. And as I just said, as far as employment goes, I know CSU, City of Fort Collins, all work very closely together to discuss how can we make sure that our local economy stays strong, moves forward, all the above. But long story short, the city of Colorado State University said, if you guys could find some land for us to be able to build affordable housing, basically do a land swap, we will be open to selling you the land, which ultimately they found. I think it all got taken care of. Colorado State University found where it's going to put some affordable housing, and then CSU sold the land to Fort Collins for $12 million. And we are now able to do with it what we want. It is owned by the city of Fort Collins, and that is a very important part going through council right now. But this particular topic, billboards, there are going to be 12 billboards built on the CSU campus, throughout the CSU campus, over the next how many ever months. Now, this goes directly against our sign ordinance in Fort Collins. And while, again, CSU wants to play nice with Fort Collins, it essentially is saying, that's cute that you have a sign ordinance, Fort Collins, but we are going to build these billboards regardless. It's our land. We can do with it what we want, and you're going to have to be okay with it. And it's, again, it's kind of an interesting conversation. Obviously, CSU and Fort Collins are going to always probably work pretty well together, but there are going to be things like this that CSU is going to want to do and do it. But I do believe, and then also, in addition to this, it's like funny, Kelly Olson made a comment in his article that said there was only one other time where CSU went totally against what Fort Collins wanted. But then additionally, with this concert at Canvas Stadium, it definitely passed our noise ordinance that is also going through the city of Fort Collins City Council right now, but they play by their own rules again. So that's kind of one of those things where CSU is going to have those concerts. And unfortunately or fortunately, if you live around that campus, you could have some noise issues during those concerts. But there are going to be 12 billboards. I think there's going to be 5 that are like 11 by 22, and then 7 that are a little bit smaller. In the article, it talked about how, there's going to be some safety messages that are sent, and, there's going to be some things of that nature. There also will be an advertising component. And I just think it's kind of funny. I'm like, nah, this is definitely a revenue grab. I don't believe the safety component of it, but I guess we'll see. We'll see what messages are being sent. Right now, the billboard that was installed and is up is off of Elizabeth and Shields, I believe it is. And it's pretty large. 11 by 22 is not small. Now, a lot of this is also going to be on CSU's campus, so it's going to be maintained. It's not going to be all throughout the city. let's see here, a couple of comments. Their affordable housing just opened up in their new apartments on Timberline near the church and Fort Collins High School, named Rendezvous Apartments. Oh, okay. Those used to be chicken coops. Yeah, that makes sense. That was the land. That was a land swap. It sounds like. Those are beautiful apartment complexes, and great part of town. Definitely really pretty close to CSU, probably as close to, obviously, the vet program and all that kind of stuff on the west side of campus would have been really close to Hugh Stadium, but probably just as close to CSU as the Hugh Stadium was. So good location, affordable apartments. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And then CSU new president seems to be less concerned with relationship of the university and town than previous presidents, in my opinion. I think she's doing really well. Now, I think I think probably what's happening, my perspective is she's just being faced with a lot of new challenges. Not that all other presidents haven't faced their own particular challenges, but, looking at AI and secondary schooling, university, things of that nature of, does university provide the value? What's AI's role in all of this? Going through COVID, she wasn't part of a COVID, was she? She was kind of like, what was she? Probably just after COVID. But all that being said, she is definitely engaged with CSU. She is, it looks like, bleeding green and gold. That is for sure. She is at all basketball events, football events, other events. She was at the PBR event this last week. She is definitely, and she's marketing herself as well as the university. There was a comment that was made, and right, wrong, or indifferent as far as sports and universities, they're humongous revenue drivers, specifically football, but basketball too. There was a small school, I can't remember who it was, but in the NCAA tournament that suggested that each round that they get to go to the tournament equates to tens of millions of dollars of free advertising for the university. So, with all of this support to basketball and football and sports programs and things of that nature, it does have a return. And with all of the marketing, obviously for me, this is definitely, it started out as marketing, and now I'm just in love with, Fort Collins and what I'm doing and learning about the community. But definitely is important to be out there marketing and building a brand. And that's what she's trying to do for CSU, is build a brand both on the education side and sports side. So it'll be interesting. Let's see here. But yes, no, I think it's interesting to look at what CSU's. I will say this Billboard thing, the noise ordinance, part of it, man. We built Canvas Stadium on campus. It was a big to-do in the city. There was a lot of fundraising for CSU. It got passed. It got built. It's a beautiful stadium. And now they're going to be able to have after a 5-year moratorium, they're going to be able to have 3 major music events each, or 3 major events, whether they be music or something else, every year. And so I'm in full support of that, as well as kind of the affordable housing project. Hey, we need affordable housing project for our employees. And so while you might want to do this with it, we need land. And so that got done. This one I could see is a little bit, this one doesn't pass the eye test for myself, at least. I'm kind of like, billboards in Fort Collins, it's beautiful that they are not here. But I'm sure they make a lot of money. So this one I could definitely see her not getting received well by the city of Fort Collins for this one. Another comment: Fort Collins is already a local music mecca. Yep, if the locals would get on board outside of FOCO MX. Totally, I agree with you. Blue Arena management should do more to urge their visiting touring bands to allow our local bands to open up their shows on a separate stage if necessary. Yeah, I love it. I mean, I literally just wrote a blog post about the CSU music scene. We are an incredible music scene in Fort Collins, between Washington's, the Aggie, the Armory, the music district supporting local artists. Now Canvas Stadium. We've got Blue Arena right there that puts on some big events. So I think Northern Colorado and Fort Collins definitely punches above its weight. That's for sure. And obviously bohemian and supporting local artists, things of that nature. Huge focus and push for local music and creatives in Northern Colorado and Fort Collins. Surfside 7, never been there. Well, I think I went to their original spot off of College, but then they moved to Linden or vice versa. Okay, here we go. Let's see here. Okay, so music in Fort Collins, so again, yeah, we had John Party and Cross Canadian Ragweed this last week. It was on weekdays, which is kind of a bummer. But they've renewed their license for 2026 and it will be on a weekend. So super excited to see what events or what music comes on next year, but it will be on a weekend comparatively to weekdays, which is definitely important in my opinion. But it was crazy to see some of these names, Rolling Stones, the Beach Boys, Elton John came, Bob Dylan, Van Halen, Dave Matthews Band. Let's see here. We've had Earth, Wind and Fire, Cake, Nelly. We've had Macklemore. We've had a lot of names. We had John Mayer early at Hodie's Half Note, which is no longer there. It's the Comedy Fort. And the Comedy Fort is definitely awesome. Should definitely go support that if you can. And, but yeah, I think there is just a lot of great opportunity for Fort Collins, which is funny. There's an individual that's posting a lot of different spots: Surfside 7, the Coast, the Aggie, Avogadro's Number, which is kind of a cool little spot as well. But Fort Collins music scene is fantastic and is definitely got an opportunity with Canvas Stadium to bring in some amazing acts in the coming years. So definitely very excited. It was sad to see Tim McGraw not able to come because of his back surgery, but is what it is. All righty. What can we do this coming week? Let's see here. Live at the Gardens, music of Billy Joel starring Michael Cavanaugh with the Fort Collins Symphony. That's August 2nd, 6 p.m. Food truck rallies always Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesday at City Park, Thursday at Fossil Creek Park. First Friday Art Walk, downtown Fort Collins, August 1st, 6 to 9 p.m. Let's see here. I haven't heard of this before, but it's Laugh Out Loud Loveland Comedy Festival, July 31st through August 3rd, downtown Loveland. There's going to be 30 plus comedians and 10 shows. So you can get VIP passes for all 4 days, but definitely looks like something to explore. Local author story time at the Gardens at Spring Creek on July 30th, 3:30 to 5:30 p.m. Free if you have an annual membership, but otherwise it'll cost you the cost of admission. The Poudre River Friends of the Library Warehouse Sale. Books will be sold for $1, August 2nd at Civic Center Park in Fort Collins from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then finally, something that I would never do. I guess I should never say never, but like 99.9% certain I will not do this, is the Wild West Relay. It's a 200-mile point-to-point race from Fort Collins to Steamboat, August 1st and 2nd. And this could be anywhere from teams of 1 to 3 to teams of, I think, up to 12. Now, the cost of admission for the team of 12 is, I think, like $2,000 some odd dollars. And I will say that I've seen people do it. I've seen teams do it. They post about it all over Facebook. It looks like a hoot. Essentially, you go from Fort Collins up through Red Feather, through Walden to Steamboat Springs. So, and you end at Steamboat Springs Resort. But 200 miles, and there are individuals, teams of 1 to 3 that do this. So no way. But that is August 1st and August 2nd. So I don't know if registration's closed, but it did look like you could register online. Now, that is all I've got for today. Where are we sitting at time-wise? 30 minutes. We didn't have City of Fort Collins City Council. So, again, we won't have it actually for the next few weeks because there was the council meeting last week, 5th Tuesday, and then August 5th is canceled. So the next meeting is not until August 12th. So we won't have a recap of that for a couple of weeks. Next week, though, we do have our real estate market, monthly market update. We don't do it tomorrow because we do it on the first Tuesday of every month. So make sure to join live next week. And then tomorrow we've got a video dropping. Is Small Town America the new American dream? And I talked with Caleb for about, I think it was only about 20, 25 minutes, but he came, or he's born and raised in Haxton, Colorado, town of 1,000 people, less than 1,000 people, and had some really good insights of, you know, why small town America is cool, what does it lack, pros and cons, and some good questions. So watch that video tomorrow. And again, if you guys have any interest in signing up for that newsletter, feel free to reach out to me. Would love to put you on that. But one last comment: Denver bands actually pass up Boulder to play here because we're cooler. Hey, I'll take that all day long. You know, I'm born and raised here in Fort Collins, and anytime that I can, you know, get a little step up on Boulder, I'm all about it. So I appreciate that last comment. All right, everybody, you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for watching. Take care.